Good morning, my brothers. This is Pastor George Yeager from the Spanish campus, and I'm bringing you the devotional today, and it's about the global missions and favor, the favor of the Lord in countries that are hostile against the gospel of Jesus Christ. I like to go to Jeremiah 29:7, and it says, "Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you will prosper. You will prosper." My brothers and sisters, we must intercede for the peace of the nations, but especially for those nations that are hostile, that don't want the gospel of Jesus Christ to spread in them. And it is very important that we do that. We know that God's people experienced throughout the Bible deportation to hostile countries like Babylon, like Rome, Egypt, and there's among others. And in all those, we must remember, in all those cases, the Lord's favor was on their people because out of the love he has for his people. And it's the same today. Today, in these times, the Church of Jesus Christ is in many, many hostile places that the gospel is, they don't want the gospel to be spread in there. And our responsibility is to cry out and intercede and provide for the men and women who are in these countries, in these situations around the world, and to pray for the favor of the Lord over them. Well, how do we do that? How do we get God's favor for these hostile nations? I'm going to bring a couple of points. One, we must ask the Lord to hand over the nations to us. To hand over the nations to us. It says, "Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the world as your possession." Psalm 2:8. As the Church of Jesus, we must pray for that God does not destroy these nations that are hostile against the gospel of Jesus Christ. Second point, that we have to pray for for the families of these nations, the nucleus of these nations, because the families are the fundamental basis of the society. Each of them has the responsibility to educate all its members. It is in the nucleus of the family where values, manners, customs, and habits are formed and developed. And we must pray for the presence of the Lord to permeate all these families, his guidance to permeate these families. All the families of the earth will be blessed in you, says in Genesis 12:13. Third point, pray for the church and the leaders and the congregants of the church. In Colossians 4:4, it says, "Persevere in prayer, watching over it with thanksgiving, praying also at the same time for us, so that the Lord opens the doors for us to speak, in order to make known the mystery of Jesus Christ, by which I am also a prisoner, so that the Lord will manifest it as I speak." There is no better way to pray for the church than to pray that the promises of God will be poured upon the church, and especially the churches that are in hostile countries. We need that. We need to intercede, my brothers. Pray against every stronghold and everything that prevents the spread of the gospel in those countries. Fourth point, supply the basic needs. Someone said once that a missionary church is a church that is closer to God's heart. And my brothers, that is a great truth, because we at Faith, we are a missionary church. And investing in resources in doing missionary missions is fundamental. In fact, it is through missions that the church grows. Praying is great, but also providing when necessarily the needs and the economic needs and resources that we have. Praying for a vision and God's favor for the nations is fundamental, my brothers and sisters. Churches in hostile places depend on the prayers of the saints at home. They depend on our prayers, our intercession. That way, the church can carry the burden of the gospel and to be preached in all the parts of the world. And that is the responsibility that we have on our shoulders. Let's pray and intercede for these. Have a blessed day.